Imagine this. The Pope has just passed away or resigned, and now the world watches the Vatican. People gather in St. Peter's Square, eyes fixed on a tiny chimney waiting for smoke. But inside, behind closed doors, something way more intense is happening. The election of the next Pope is one of the most secretive and powerful rituals on Earth. It's wrapped in tradition, but there's also power struggles, political drama, and some stories the Vatican would probably prefer you didn't. No. Today, we're counting down 10 dark secrets behind the mysterious process of choosing the next Pope. Let's get started. 10. Cardinals are completely cut off. When it's time to elect a new Pope, the cardinals don't just meet, they're locked inside the Sistine Chapel. This gathering is called the conclave, from the Latin conclave, which literally means with a key. Once the doors are shut, no one can enter or leave without permission. They're not allowed phones, newspapers, or any kind of communication with the outside world. Technicians even sweep for bugs to make sure there's no spying. And yet, in 2005, when Pope Benedict XVI was elected, information about the voting somehow made it to the press. A German magazine published details about who got how many votes in each round. That was supposed to be impossible. The Vatican never confirmed how the leak happened, but the fact that it did shows that even the tightest rules can be broken.
9.
Secret political alliances are made. The Church says the Holy Spirit guides the cardinals' vote, but politics still plays a huge role. In 2013, before Pope Francis was elected, there were reports of a group of reformist cardinals from Europe and the Americas who allegedly formed a quiet alliance. This group, sometimes called the St. Gallen Group, had been meeting informally for years. Their goal was to push for a more open and modern church. They didn't openly campaign, which is technically illegal under Vatican rules, but they supposedly supported Cardinal Jorge Bergoglio, who would later become Pope Francis. Whether or not, this group tipped the scales. The point is clear. There's more strategy and behind-the-scenes talking than most people think.
8.
Votes can be influenced by old rivalries. Personal rivalries don't disappear when the doors to the conclave close. In fact, they can shape the entire election. Take the 1978 conclave, for example. After Pope Paul VI died, the church was in a complicated place. Some wanted to keep tradition strong, while others called for serious change. Cardinal Benelli, a powerful Italian, was seen as a front-runner, but he had enemies. Many cardinals reportedly voted against him, not because he wasn't qualified, but because they didn't like how much control he had over Vatican operations. That resistance opened the door for a surprise candidate, Cardinal Karol Wojtyła from Poland, who became Pope John Paul II. He wasn't even expected to win, but tensions and rivalries among others gave him the edge.
7.
Deals have been made and was exchange for power. While it sounds shocking, there have been cases where deals were made. Quiet promises in exchange for support. Though these aren't recorded or officially acknowledged, multiple Vatican insiders have hinted at these trades over the years. In the 1492 conclave, for instance, Cardinal Rodrigo Borgia is believed to have openly bribed other cardinals with promises of positions and wealth. He won and became Pope Alexander VI, one of the most controversial popes in history. The Church today has stricter rules, but even now, there are whispers that cardinals agree to support each other's ideas or policies in exchange for votes.
6.
Not all popes were elected. Fairly, some popes weren't just chosen unfairly. They were forced into power or manipulated into it. One of the most disturbing cases happened in the 9th century. Pope Formosus had died, but his enemies hated him so much, they put his corpse on trial months later. Yes, you heard that right, the cadaver. Synod actually happened. His body was dressed in papal robes, propped on a throne, and judged. He was declared guilty, stripped of his title, and thrown into the river. Why bring this up in a video about elections? Because the chaos after Formosus' death led to violent arguments over who the next pope should be. Politics and revenge were more powerful than any spiritual calling. 5. National interests can get involved. The Vatican is in Rome, but it's a global church, and that brings global pressure. In many elections, certain countries quietly push for a pope who aligns with their values. During the Cold War, the United States and the Soviet Union each had their own interests in Vatican policy. In 1978, when Pope John Paul II was elected, his Polish background was more than symbolic. Poland was under communist rule at the time. Many historians believe his election was a blow to Soviet power in Europe. It's hard to say if governments directly influenced the vote, but the outcome certainly affected global politics. For some cardinals want the job technically. No one's supposed to want to be pope. It's seen as a humble calling, not a political ambition, but reality is more complicated. Many cardinals are powerful figures who've run dioceses, negotiated global deals, or led church departments for years. Some see the papacy as the peak of their career, even if they won't admit it. In past conclaves, certain cardinals were seen handing out materials or quietly pushing their vision of the future church. That may not be full-on campaigning, but it raises eyebrows. In one report from the 2005 conclave, an Italian cardinal reportedly handed out printed bios to others, highlighting his accomplishments. He didn't win, but it shows that ambition does exist, even in the Vatican. 3. The voting process has loopholes. The actual voting system sounds strict, but it has gaps. Each cardinal writes the name of his chosen candidate on a piece of paper and drops it into a chalice. Then the ballots are counted and burned. Black smoke if no decision, white smoke if there's a new pope. But in 2013, the Vatican accidentally released white smoke before the cardinals had officially voted. For a few minutes, the crowd outside believed a new pope had been chosen, when that wasn't true. It was later blamed on a chemical issue. Still, mistakes like that reveal how even a centuries-old tradition can misfire. And then, there's the rule that says a 2/3 majority is required, but that rule has changed in the past. Pope John Paul II once allowed a simple majority if votes kept stalling, though that rule was reversed later. These tweaks mean that rules aren't as unchangeable as they seem. 2. Scandals are often ignored. You'd think a cardinal accused of major scandals wouldn't be considered for the papacy, but that hasn't always been the case. In recent years, names of cardinals linked to abuse cover-ups or financial corruption were still discussed as potential candidates. For example, Cardinal Angelo Sodano held enormous influence for decades, despite being linked to covering up abuse scandals. He even led the Mass at Pope John Paul II's funeral in 2005. He was never punished publicly. The idea that some cardinals maintain influence, even with serious accusations, is troubling. It shows how much the Church values loyalty and tradition. Sometimes, over-transparency. 1. The Vatican tries to keep it quiet, but leaks happen even with all the efforts to keep things silent. Leaks always find their way out. In 2013, during Pope Francis's election, an Italian journalist accurately described conversations and divisions inside the conclave. Just days after it ended, the Vatican never confirmed the leak, but it raised questions. Who's talking? And why? The pressure to get a pope who fits the current moment is huge. That pressure sometimes breaks the rules. And while the Vatican says it's all about prayer, reflection, and guidance, human nature finds its way in, just like it does everywhere else. So there you have it. 10 hidden truths behind the Vatican's secret process to choose the next pope. From ancient corpses on trial to quiet alliances in the Sistine Chapel, this sacred ritual is more dramatic than most people realize. It's a reminder that even in the holiest places on earth, power, politics, and ambition still play a semi-auric role. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with someone who's curious about how the Church really works, and subscribe for more thought-provoking stories every week. Thanks for watching.